Buonasera e benvenuti all'Istituto Italiano di Cultura. For those friends who are here for the first time, welcome. My name is Emanuela Mendola. I'm the director of the Italian Cultural Institute in Los Angeles. Tonight we are celebrating one of the most appreciated figures in the world of opera, Giacomo Puccini, as we mark 100 years since his passing. This occasion is of special significance for us, with numerous events that have been organized in Italy throughout 2024. Before we begin, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our partners for this evening, Fondazione Arena di Verona, Enit e Regione Veneto, whose collaboration has made this event possible. I also want to share my appreciation and gratitude with Maestro James Conlon, Maestro Conlon is the music director of the LA Opera, who will be offering his insights on Puccini's legacy tonight. But I also would like to say un grazie particolare e benvenuti a Cecilia e Gasdia, Superintendent of the Fondazione Arena di Verona, and Stefano Trespiti, the Artistic Director of the Fondazione. It is worth noting that both Arena di Verona and LA Opera will soon debut their production of Turandot, of course by Giacomo Puccini. So whether you are in Italy, going to be in Italy soon, or you're going to be here in Los Angeles, please go attend. And obviously, I want to add that the celebrations don't end here tonight, because as some of you might know, at the very end of last year, Italian opera singing was inscribed in the UNESCO list of intangible heritage. Opera singing is a fundamental part, I would say, of Italian heritage. The idea of combining music, poetry, history, to narrate a story through music is something that Italians have invented, and we are really, really proud of that. For its capacity to balance so many elements, opera became very popular from its very beginning, to the point that many argue that Puccini, Rossini, or Verdi's arias have had a great impact and contributed a lot to the cultural unification of our country. But the UNESCO recognition actually underscores the universal cultural significance and appeal of opera, which is not just Italian, but is something that belongs now to humankind. And even though it was conceived in Italy centuries ago, opera still speaks to us, representing stories, values, and passions that are relevant and relatable to audiences throughout the world from all walks of life. While tonight's program will be very rich, of course, no program about Puccini or opera could be complete without music. So with our friends of Fondazione Arena di Verona, we prepared a special homage to Puccini and other classics of the Italian opera repertoire. Will be treated by some beautiful performances, which will be introduced by Cecilia Gasdia, who was not only the superintendent of Fondazione Arena di Verona, but she's also a brilliant artist herself with an incredible career, and will be accompanying the singers on the piano. So I thank you all once again for joining us tonight, and now I would like to welcome on stage Fabrizio Lanzafame, representative of Enit, who is also a partner of this evening. Grazie.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed tour operators and members of the press, benvenuti. Welcome to a journey through the heart of Italy's cultural and historical splendor. As we stand here today, we are honored to usher you into the world where the past and present dance in the timeless embrace. I would like to thank Emanuela Mendola and the Foundation of Arena of Verona for hosting and organizing this event. So let's step into the world of Giacomo Puccini as we commemorate a century since the maestro's passing with an unforgettable celebration. His music, a testament to the human spirit, continues to resonate through the corridors of time. Experience the timeless allure of Puccini's most cherished arias and other opera classics brought to life in the very landscape that inspires them. As we traverse to the city of Verona, prepare to be captivated by the echoes of history that reverberates through the ancient streets. The Arena of Verona, a coliseum of tales and artistry, invites you to witness the grandeur of operatic performances under the stars. Its history, as enduring as the marble it's caved from, promises an experience as monumental as the opera it hosts. Beyond Verona lies the Veneto region, a tapestry of vineyards, Renaissance art, and serene canals. Here, the essence of Italy is distilled into every glass of wine, every stroke of the painter's brush, and every reflection of the water. Tourism to Italy and to Verona is not merely a visit, it's an odyssey that stirs the soul, awakens the senses, and captures the heart. As we embark on this journey together, let us forge a new path of discovery and create memories that will linger long after our return. Grazie for choosing Italy as your compass to history, culture, and unparalleled beauty. Let the spirit of Puccini guide us through the enchanting narrative written over centuries, and may your time here be as melodious as the areas that will fill our skies. Welcome to Italy, where every step tells a story and every moment is a masterpiece. Well, thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to James Conlon, the music director of the LA Opera.
Thank you very much for the introduction. What to say? Well, welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming tonight to hear these as many words as I could put together to praise Giacomo Puccini. Just one more voice amongst millions who do so. Vorrei anche dire benvenuti a tutti gli italiani che sono qui oggi, soprattutto mia collega e amica Cecilia Gasdia, che sono molto contento di essere qui con lei e con tutti quello che ha portato per Verona e per l'opera in generale. È un momento molto commovente per me perché non ci siamo visti da tanti anni. So thank you very much all for coming. How do you start to sum up Giacomo Puccini? And of course, Turandot or Turandot is on our minds because of course it's the last opera of Puccini, because it is he died exactly 100 years ago in 1924, so 2024 is the centenary. So as many operas are doing, Turandot will close our season. We will open in a little more than a week from Saturday night. We open our production, which is actually an old production, but a classic of David Hockney's. You're all welcome, of course, to come and see it, and I hope you will. I also invite you because even speaking as I do here today, I'm generously given this time by my friends and colleagues from the Cultural Istituto. Half an hour or so, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, for me is very short because I'm used to speaking in long paragraphs. Because these operas are fascinating and the story of Puccini is fascinating, the story of Turandot is fascinating. So I do invite you to visit our website at Los Angeles Opera, if only because I like to write, and I have written an article on Turandot, which you may find interesting. Good luck finding it on our website. It's very difficult for me at my age to find my way through these websites, but I understand that you will find it. And I also make a podcast, which I believe will be up next week. So, and as I never say the same thing twice in exactly the same way. It will not be an absolute reproduction of what I'm saying tonight. But I have started my article with a famous quote from 1939 from Winston Churchill on the subject of Russia. And he described it as, "It is a riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma." And I thought that this is a very good way to start with the problem of Turandot and Turandot, which starts with how to pronounce the title of the opera. And why and how, what is the story? Of course, I have consulted so many times. Everybody I know in Italy, I've asked the question, well, what do you say? Why do you say it? What is the correct way and why? And some very erudite people, some great maestri, and some of my colleagues. Well, the consensus is that the proper pronunciation is Turandot, pronouncing the T. But the story doesn't end there. Why is it proper? Only because the primary source, or at least the direct source of inspiration, was a theatrical work by Carlo Gozzi, the Venetian writer of the 18th century, and it was called Turandotte, and it had a T or even two. I also did some checking up the original story, which, by the way, is not Chinese at all, it's Persian, and came to Puccini indirectly and Gozzi through a French writer, and that Persian princess had a name that I don't speak one word of Persian, but there is definitely some form of consonant at the end of the word that looks to me like a T. So it's the likelihood is that it was originally Turandot. And I understand there's dissension even amongst the descendants of Puccini as to whether he said Turandot or Turandot. But there is a more important influence in all these stories. It's very, very, very hard to sing a high note on the word Turandot with a T. That T made it difficult for the chorus, that T made it difficult for the tenors. And so by practice, it has evolved that people tend not to say Turandot, because it's much easier to sing a vowel up there than to sing a vowel plus a very difficult consonant. So you're allowed to say either one, and if you get if you find yourself in a boring moment at a cocktail party and the conversation has come to an end, bring the question up. And you'll have the floor at least for a few minutes, and you'll be able to explain it to somebody and give them a little bit of background. But the problem doesn't stop there with the title. The problem is essentially because he died before he completed the opera, there is no ending by Puccini. That is the first part of the problem. He had been suffering for several months from a throat cancer, and he went to Brussels for a treatment, which apparently was a successful treatment of the cancer, but then suddenly died of a heart attack, unexpected. So when people start to talk about a last testament of work, and we all in music tend to do this because there's always a last work of every composer, they say, well, this is the last word, this is the last tentative. But of course it wasn't true at all. I mean, Mahler died, and we all say, well, this Ninth Symphony is his last great testament. Well, it wasn't at all. He wrote a great deal of a 10th Symphony. He didn't finish it. So we act as if it's a last work. But in my mind, Turandot, whichever you prefer, is not a last work at all. It was one more work that followed a consequential development over the entire lifetime of this great composer whose genius was double. First as a composer and a musician, but also as a person of the theater. Puccini's instinct for the theater was probably as strong as his instinct as a composer. And he even said himself he could barely write a note of music until he could conceive of what the scene would look like in all of its details. So he is eminently theatrical in his writings. And the proof is that he wrote very little music that was not for the opera theater. And it took him years sometimes in between all of those operas. And so Turandot is very different from many, if not all of his operas. And I think it's inspiring to see why that happened and where he was going. And that, of course, is where the mystery comes in. What would he have done how it would not just have finished the story, but if it were a finished product. Now, we do have pieces of music in the classical music world that are not finished. The most famous, perhaps, is the unfinished symphony of Schubert. It only has 2 movements. Every so often, somebody completes it for us. It has a first movement and a second movement, but there's no scherzo and trio, there's no finale. And so somebody says, well, he wrote a theme here, I'm going to write it and develop it. Okay, so I'm not going to make any comments on whether I think that's good or bad, but I would make the comment that the unfinished symphony of Schubert is finished, exactly as we have it from Schubert. Why he did not finish it, we do not know. But that it is significant, and it may be simply because it was so complete and coherent within itself that it stands by itself. And the proof it has stood by itself ever since. Now, there are many other examples of unfinished pieces that were finished by a second composer. Mozart, the Requiem, obviously. He didn't finish it. His student Süssmayr finished it, although a lot of it still, reflects Mozart. Mahler did not finish the 10th Symphony, but there have been completions of his 10th Symphony. Mozart, by the way, wrote a C minor Mass that stops after a credo. I mean, so why? We don't know the reasons for this, but it still stands together as a complete piece. Now the question is, would Turandot of Puccini really be a complete piece if he were to stop where he died? And the problem is, and the insoluble problem, the answer is yes and no. No, it would not, because the story is not finished. So we know that his last music was associated with the character of the death of Liu, and we will return to her in a minute. She's a very important person. But the basic story, fable, fairy tale-like, is about a princess and a prince, unknown prince, who wishes to woo her so that he may have her hand in marriage, and then presumably he will become the new emperor. That's a story as old as civilization. I mean, how many times have we heard that story in fairy tales? And so the essence of the story is about that, and the most dramatic moment is the confrontation of the test. Every hero in every myth and fable has to pass a test, and this unknown prince must pass an important test. He must answer correctly 3 enigmas. Now, this goes back to the ancient Greeks. The stories abound in enigmas, and if you get the right answer, you get a prize. And if you don't get the right answer, in this case, in Turandot, you will lose your life. So the test was pretty steep. Yes, you can try to convince Turandot to marry you, but she disdains men, she disdains love, she is distant, and she has a reason, and we'll get into that reason in a moment. But who's brave enough to risk death? Well, there's a whole line of people, princes, who have been there to try it, and they fail at the enigmas. So a story ends when a line of repeated behavior ends. And this is the end of the line because there is a prince who gets the enigmas correctly, and so he should marry Turandot. Now, that's the essence of the drama. You can't have the drama without putting the 2 characters together at the end, so-called joyous or happy ending. But we have the problem that Puccini died. Now, I'm going to introduce a second thought to this, and that is maybe Puccini was having the same type of trouble that Schubert or Mahler was having in completing their last piece. Mahler died, it is true, but he was struggling with that work. Maybe Puccini was struggling with that ending, and it took him much more time than it might have, because somehow or other he hadn't found his port of entry into it. The transformation of this princess from cold, aloof, distant, who feels deep disdain for romantic love and for men because of a trauma committed to one of her ancestors, how do you turn her all of a sudden and create a love duet, which obviously Puccini had to do at the end? How do you do that by magic, simply by changing it? Not easy, and I think he suffered greatly not being able to find the key. He said to himself, I want to write a duet like Wagner's Tristan and Isolde. Well, that's a very high bar. And frankly, also, at the end of an opera, to write a 45-minute or hour love duet, as we get in the second act of Tristan and Isolde, is disproportionate. Well, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it, of course. So he had to find a solution, but he didn't find the solution, and time ran out. So that is one big problem. What do you do with the end? What do you do about it? Now, at the time, the momentary solution was to commission a younger composer by the name of Alfano to complete it, who he had recently had a success in Milano. Toscanini, who of course was conducting Turandot, had assigned him to this task. He writes an ending. He has some material, not a lot of material, from Puccini, and he tries to put together. Now, I think it's unfair to criticize Alfano. Some people do, but I think that's unfair because he did a service in writing this ending. Toscanini found it too long, and he cut it, and he started making cuts. We have basically always kept the tradition of doing the truncated version of Toscanini. Many people don't realize that the end that we know, most of us, is not Alfano's full ending. It is Alfano after Toscanini cut a lot of music. Now, that music is now recorded, you can hear it. There are some people who actually prefer it. It is longer, but some say it's more coherent. But nobody is saying it is echt, first-rate Puccini. It's an ending, and we live with it. Toscanini, at the premiere, laid down his baton at the end of Liu's death, turned to the audience, said, "It is here that the maestro laid down his pen, and he left the podium," and the premiere was performed without the ending by Alfano, as a gesture of homage and respect to Puccini. Now, the second night, Toscanini conducted the Alfano ending, truncated, and then I think he conducted it once more and then he stopped. But that ending has stayed. In recent years, some very distinguished composers have composed other endings for including Luciano Berio. Now, I have a problem with the stylistic rupture when you have been listening to a whole evening of Puccini and suddenly even a very, very highly gifted great composer like Luciano Berio, you still hear that it's Berio. There are other versions. There's a version that's going to be premiered in Washington, I think this week, which completely changes the end of the story. I think this will go on forever. I don't think there will be ever a fully satisfying answer to the question, what should you do at the end? I have my own fantasy. And since nowadays stage directors and producers all over since Signora Gasdia, Cecilia, you know the directors are doing everything possible now to change the stories of operas. So here's another one. Why not stop the music with the death of Liu and have some kind of symbolic pantomime afterwards, so that of the end of the opera, to bring the dramaturgical story to an end? This is just a fantasy. I'll probably never see it, but I ask myself, well, why not? In a certain way, that bothers me less than to hear music that doesn't either fit or just simply isn't as good. But that's riddles, mysteries, enigmas. That's only a thought. But the second big problem of Turandot, that is its imperfection in certain respects, and this is between professionals, musicologists, musicians, artists, singers. I mean, and conductors also, because, I mean, we have the privilege to be inside, inside the work itself. The other problem is that we know that Puccini took his works, revised them, edited them, revised them again, re-edited. Very often the works were performed in public and he withdrew them. Madame Butterfly is the best example, had 3 versions before it came to the version that generally is performed today. We know he did this. This was a part of his normal process, to see it, to hear it. He was never happy. He agonized over these decisions, both the forest and the trees, down to the detail. We know he would have done that with Turandot, but he didn't. He couldn't, because he didn't live to do that. So I think that to whatever degree it might be considered an imperfect work, we still have to, I think we're still privileged, because it is still one of the 2 greatest last exponents of the Italian melodramatic opera form. After Giuseppe Verdi and Giacomo Puccini, it has reached its summit. It has reached its zenith. It could not be surpassed. And the fact is, even though there is important and great composition that has continued from Italian composers in the last 100 years, nobody has actually continued that tradition in that way. By now, the world had changed too much by the 1920s. The influence and the intermarriage with German music, Austrian music, with French music, with Stravinsky, with modernism, has so affected the world that we will never again have that moment in history where somebody will write another Verdi opera or write another Puccini opera. Unless, of course, that AI is capable of doing it. That of course, is the only thing I would be looking forward to if it is actually is a success. I mean, I wish somebody would write Verdi's unwritten King Lear. That's what I want. He started, he never managed to do it. But I don't think it could be repeated. And I think the fact that the melodrama, the Italian operatic melodrama, has died out after their time. And so what we have, instead of trying to follow Puccini and Verdi as models, we have the responsibility as artists and as a culture, and the privilege and the joy of preserving one of the greatest traditions, not just Italian tradition. It is an Italian tradition, but it is a cultural tradition, a cultural gem, a treasure of Western civilization. The operas of, I say Verdi and Puccini, but I go back to Rossini, I go back to Donizetti, I go back to Bellini, I go back to Monteverdi, and to the non-Italian composers who drew out of Italian opera, Mozart, Handel, Gluck, even Wagner. Nobody who was exposed to the early development of Italian opera could ignore it as a powerful force. And so we have an unfinished work. But how many times have we looked at a Michelangelo sculpture, for instance, which he never finished, because usually out of impatience or frustration. But we see a torso struggling to escape from that stone from which it was born. And yet we see it and we look at it and we say, that's a masterpiece. Finished or not finished, it has its power. And so finished, unfinished, perfect or imperfect, Turandot is worth the effort, the power, and of course the privilege to perform and listen to it. I think there's some also structural challenges. He tried something he never did before. He always was trying something new. If you go back all the way to the beginning, skipping over his 2 earliest operas, Le Villi and Edgar, and you start with Manon Lescaut, each step is a step forward, something new. Manon Lescaut, La Bohème, Tosca, Madame Butterfly being the first opera where he starts to confront the possibilities provided by having an Asian subject. And those are primarily musical possibilities because he can take advantage of certain harmonies and certain scales that he could use. And of course, Puccini, in his way, tells the same story in his operas over and over again. And what is that? The term that's been used is erotic desperation. Or if you turn it around, desperate eroticism. But repeat it like a mantra to yourself and think about it. You will find that it is omnipresent in Puccini. This seems to be his story, whether it's him or what was his muse. It comes back over and over again. On the other hand, he loves to dress up his characters in different costumes and different countries and different cultures because he's fascinated by the theatrical possibility that this gives him. And if you go through his works, you will see. He starts with Le Villi in the Black Forest of Germany. He goes to Edgar, which is in Flanders. He goes and stays in Paris for Manon Lescaut, La Bohème, Il Tabar. Four French operas to take place in Paris. He goes to Rome for Tosca. He goes to Nagasaki for Japan. He goes to the Wild West of the United States, where he had never been. And he writes the Fanciulla del West. He makes a Viennese operetta out of La Rondine, maybe not a success, but he's always searching for something new. And then he gets the idea to write 3 operas and put them on at once in Il Trittico, the triptych. 3 operas of completely different subjects. Toscanini was so shocked by that he refused to conduct it, which caused a very big rift in the relationship between Toscanini and Puccini. And there he has another story in Paris, an undefined convent in 16th or 17th century Italy, and Gianni Schicchi, Florentine, comes from Dante indirectly. He created them. He was not finished. Now for him it was going to be ancient China. And so he goes to Beijing, he finds this fable, and he creates a fable with an enormous chorus. And he never used a chorus that way before in his life. There are choruses, they are of more or less importance in his operas. But this is an opera where the chorus is one of the protagonists. And in this regard, I'm convinced, although I cannot find any documentation, that he must have known Mussorgsky's Boris Godunov, because the use of the populace as the protagonist is very characteristic. And because Puccini was an internationalist, he knew everything that was going on. His music shows the influences of Ravel, Debussy, Stravinsky. He knew everything, and he welcomed, and Wagner, he welcomed all influences, and then he used them for himself. I want you to think, just as I leave you, because we have a wonderful program that's coming up very shortly. I want you to see that if those of you who like numerology or the meaning of numbers or symmetry, this is an opera of 3. Okay, 3 enigmas. There are 3 acts. There are 3 calls in the dark of the night at the beginning of Act 3. There are 3 members of the top of the royal court, the emperor, his daughter, Princess Turandot, and a mandarin. There are 3 immigrants, Tartars, who are the unknown prince, Calaf, Timur, his blind father, the deposed king, and a slave girl, Liu, whom I will leave till the end. And then there are 3 ministers who have the unfortunate names of Ping, Pong, and Pong, which is regrettable, but it is so. They are, what are they? They are simply coming out of Gozzi and Goldoni and the Commedia dell'arte art form. And so they are comic, but they make commentary, they are sardonic, they are satirical. To put this sort of comic relief in the midst of this epic opera is another amazing step forward, and not without its problems, but it's created these three different groups. Liu, I want to spend my last minutes just speaking about Liu and why she is so important. Liu is the most Italianate character, and she is the most representative of Puccini's classic style, and I mean from the earlier period. There is a personal story behind it. It's a hypothesis, but it's a hypothesis that has a great deal of weight. There was a young woman named Doria Manfredi who worked for the Puccini family in the years just preceding, I think, the First World War. Puccini, with his desperate eroticism or his erotic desperation, had a very long track record of liaisons and relationships with other women. So his wife, Elvira, had ample reason to be suspicious, to be jealous, and to confront him with him. She had taken it in her mind that Puccini had taken an interest in this young teenage girl who worked at the house, whose name was Doria. And she accused her, and she shamed her. Then the eventual tragedy is that this young girl, Doria, committed suicide. The family of Doria Manfredi sued the Puccini family and won their case. So the judge recognized the guilt of the Puccini family in this young woman's society. However, the medical autopsy revealed that she was a virgin. And after that was when the court case got force. It is said that Puccini permanently never got over the death of that young girl who was innocent. And then maybe in that one case, he too was innocent. But he never got over the loss of life of that young girl. And that he poured that story, that sense of remorse, that sense of regret about young Doria into the character of Liu, who does not really exist in Gozzi's original. There is a maid, but she's not the maid of the Tartar king. She is the maid of Turandot, and she's not nice at all. This Liu, who is very reminiscent of many of the heroines that we love from Puccini, is representative, and he perhaps writes this as an homage to her. And so I would like to leave my last words with the thoughts of Liu, and those last words and the last notes that Giacomo Puccini was to leave to all of us on this earth were those that accompany the death of Liu. And with that, I finish my speak and invite you all to enjoy the rest of the evening with Cecilia Gasdia and everybody from Verona. Thank you very much.
Maestro Conlon, sei bravissimo, fantastico, sono rimasta veramente a bocca aperta. Sorry. Buonasera a tutti, buonasera e benvenuti. Video. evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't understand, I am Cecilia Gasdia. I'm Cecilia Gasdia, and I would like to offer you a very warm welcome on behalf of the Fondazione Arena di Verona, of which I am General Manager. I wish to thank you very much Emanuele Amendola, direttore dell'Istituto Italiano di Cultura, e benvenuto a tutti gli italiani questa sera presenti, e anche al vice console Lorenzo Arrighi. Grazie per la sua presenza, e grazie a Enit e anche ITA for their contribution and the support to our tour. I come from Verona. I was born in Verona 64 years ago. In the heart of the northern Italy, halfway between Milan and Venice, and very close to Lake Garda. Verona is not a huge city, but it can boast an unrivaled wealth of history, art and culture dating back millennia. In the heart of its heart, in the central square of Verona, Piazza Bra, stands the arena. The Arena di Verona, which was built 2,000 years ago, is a Roman amphitheater that has been hosting the oldest opera festival of its kind since 1913. This unique space, a perfectly preserved historical monument, is in fact also the largest open-air opera house in the world. Every evening in summer, it welcomes more than 12,000 spectators who come from all over the world to see spectacular productions that can only be staged in the arena. I have been in office for 7 years before I was a singer, and before the singer I was a pianist. Since 2018, but my love affair with the arena is much longer and goes back a long way. I began as an extra when I was still a child. Then I was an artist in the chorus for 3 years, before going on to perform on the arena stage countless times as a soloist. A visit to arena is an unforgettable experience for anyone. And those who work behind the scenes, like me since I was a little girl, create such a strong bond, feel such love, that parting at the end of the season becomes almost painful, because you can't wait to come back and start again. A kind of arena sickness. The same holds true for the spectators. Sooner or later, I hope, they return, because the magic of the opera, of the collective ritual, is combined with the magic of the venue, the star-studded sky and Piazza Bra, which becomes a large, beautiful, natural foyer. Our story of the Arena di Verona, began with an anniversary. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of Giuseppe Verdi's birth, a spectacular production of his masterpiece Aida was staged in the summer of 1913. Gambling on the event was a group of entrepreneurs and patrons led by the Veronese tenor Giovanni Zenatello. We must be very grateful to Zenatello for all that he did. Even later on, in his best years, he lived and sang in the United States, becoming a teacher and talent scout in New York City. It was he who revealed to the world the talent of Lily Pons in 1947, who auditioned an unknown soprano here to be cast in the summer at the arena. It was Maria Callas, who made her Italian and European debut at the Arena di Verona Opera Festival. In 1913, it was an artistic feat, but also an economic one. Since then, the Opera Festival and the city have grown together. A successful crossover that still has important social and cultural repercussions. It is a vital resource that creates employment and tourism in the city and the surrounding area. Between those backstage and those on it, In summer, the Arena di Verona becomes a citadel of 1,400 workers, in orchestra, in the chorus, among the performers, children, mime actors, dancer, extras, etc., etc. Since the first Aida in 1913, we reached our 100th centesima season last year. This year, in 2024, we celebrate the beginning of our new century. Our 101st season features 50 evenings of top quality opera, spectacle and music from June 7 to September 7. 7 opera productions, 6 special evenings, ballets, concert from Vivaldi to Karl Orff and Beethoven. Our extraordinary opening will be on June 7. With a worldwide event, La Grande Opera Italiana Patrimonio dell'Umanità, promoted by the Ministry of Culture and produced in collaboration with the Fondazione Arena di Verona to celebrate the practice of opera singing in Italy, proclaimed intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. It will bring together 150 orchestral musicians and over 300 chorister from all the Italian Lyric and Symphonic Foundation. Maestro Riccardo Muti will do us the honor of conducting a part of the evening. 3 titles have been dedicated. Come sappiamo tutti, abbiamo parlato di Puccini fino adesso, quindi grazie Giacomo. Noi amiamo tutti tantissimo, tutto il mondo ama Giacomo Puccini, scusate, italiano. Tutto il mondo, all the world loves opera. Opera lirica from Monteverdi, more than 400 years of story, is the first big mad in Italy. Torniamo a Puccini. This year is the centenary of Puccini's death, so we are honored to dedicate to our great Giacomo 3 titles. The 101st opera season opens with Franco Zeffirelli's spectacular production of Turandot, and then Tosca in Ugo Deana's historic noir production, and a new staging of Puccini, La Bohème, by director Alfonso Signorini. 4 other emblematic works crown the festival. Giuseppe Verdi's Aida in 2 different productions, Stefano Poda's Crystal production and Gianfranco De Bosio staging of the historic 1913 Aida. George Bizet Carmen in Franco Zeffirelli's colossal staging with direction and scenes, and Gioacchino Rossini, Il Barbiere di Siviglia in Ugo Deana elegant Rocco standing. Festival 2024 will feature 6 special events: La Grande Dance by Étoile Roberto Bolle and Friends, and the Beethoven 9th Symphony, 200 years after its premiere, conducted by Andrea Battistoni, and featuring the Arena Ensemble and solo voice of Erin Morlin and Ivan Magrì, both making their Arena debut, as well as Anna Maria Chiuri and Alexander Vinogradov. Poi Karl Orff, Carmina Burana, conducted by Michele Spottis, and finally ballet returns to Verona's Roman Theatre with the 2 performances of Theodorakis Zorba the Greek, with original choreography by Lorca Massine. In addition, in a world premiere, the Fondazione Arena di Verona and Balich Wonder Studio present a grand immersive concert with a 3-dimensional projection to celebrate the 4th season, the 300th anniversary of the publication of Antonio Vivaldi's masterpiece. The title, Viva Vivaldi, the 4th season immersive concert, will take place on August 28 with the Orchestra dell'Arena di Verona and violinist Giovanni Andrea Zanon. A totally new approach to scenography using technology to bring the opera festival closer to an ever younger audience. The opera Turandot is conducted by the young Michele Spotti, and who makes its debut all'Arena di Verona, as does George Petru with Il Barbiere di Siviglia and Leonardo Sini on the podium of Carmen. As always, the great international opera stars renew their presence in the amphitheater, making every evening for us and for you a premiere. Among the more than 130 soloists from all over the world are the welcome returns of Martushin Ankbat, Ludovic Tézier, Vasilisa Berzanskaya, Lawrence Brownlee, Alexandra Kurzak, Francesco Meli, Roberto Alagna, Luca Micheletti, Elena Stichina, Jonas Kaufmann, Luca Salsi, and more and more and more. And the debut as Carmen of Egul Akmeshtina, and Pretty Yend as Michaela in the same production, Giuliana Gregorian as Mimi in La Bohème, e René Barbera in The Count of Almaviva in Barbiere di Siviglia. Io spero di vedervi tutti, ma prima di cominciare il nostro piccolo concerto vorrei lasciare un attimo la parola al direttore artistico Stefano Trespili. 2 minuti,
Yeah, everything has been said about 2024. So, I would like to introduce the Festival 2025. Having in mind that it's crucial nowadays for every cultural and artistic institutions that the activity of programming has to be really anticipated. And Arena di Verona wants to be really leader in the opera field. And for this reason, we are happy to announce also to Los Angeles public that we announced the program of Arena Opera Festival 2025 2 years before in May 2023. And we are on sale since this April 2024. So the Arena Opera Festival 2025 will be constituted by 46 operas, 46 events, and it will be started with a new production of Nabucco by Stefano Poda. After the incredible success of Aida, the Crystal Aida, we thought with Cecilia Gasdia to give the opportunity to Maestro Poda also to stage Nabucco. We will have 13 performances of Nabucco, and I can share with you the baritone that will sing in the first night, 13th of June, that will be Martushin Ankbat. Then we'll have again the Aida by Stefano Poda, Traviata, a beautiful production by Ugo De Ana, again the Carmen of Franco Zeffirelli, and very particular for the Arena, the Rigoletto is not very common in the Arena, but because it's maybe not so much spectacular from the staging point of view, but we will have a beautiful production of Rigoletto, and then again Roberto Bolle and Carmina Burana. So, if you won't be able to make it for 2024, we'll be waiting for you in 2025 in the Arena di Verona. Thank you very much.
Yeajin, Jeon, Italian soprano Sara Cortelezzis, and Italian tenor Ivan Magrì. And the piano, this fantastic piano, Italian pianoforte, me.
Se il mio sogno si avverasse, un esercito di prodi da me guidato, e la vittoria e il plauso diventi tutta. Aida, tornare di là un incinto,
Tento del suo
Distinto